Hi, and welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Kassi, and I'm your host. Today we're going to be doing a basic granny square tutorial, but before I begin, I want to go ahead and remind everybody that I do have a giveaway going on right now, and I also want to welcome back all of my subscribers. If you're not subscribed, you're probably going to want to do that, and be sure to like this video if you get anything out of it, okay? So we're going to be doing a granny square today, and I want to just kind of go over the stitches that you'll need to know. You'll need to know the double crochet, and you'll need to know the chain stitch, just chaining basically. Another thing you need to know that I'm going to teach you in this tutorial is how to make a loop and crochet in the round here, but I'm going to teach you how to do that, okay? And I think that's about it. Yeah. So we're going to make a granny square done in the traditional way, which is these clusters divided by a space, right? And this might seem like on a kindergarten level, but it really will help you guys as you're learning, if this is your first time making a granny square. All squares have 4 sides and 4 corners. So the way to think about the granny squares is that when you're on a side, you're going to do it differently than when you're in this corner. Every corner is going to have a cluster from one side and a cluster from the other side in it. And it's going to be separated by 2 chains. For the sides, the clusters will be separated by 1 chain. And that's basically all you really need to know to do it. But we're going to go ahead and do it together so that you can really get this pattern down. A lot of people, this is the first thing they learn when they crochet, so this should be relatively easy to get down, but don't get discouraged if you find yourself having to start over a few times. That's completely normal. So, that said, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to start with the same yarn. I purchased it on Etsy from a small shop, but I have not been happy with the quality of the yarn, so I'd rather not say what shop that is because I don't really want to create negative reviews for this shop. I mean, the yarn's pretty and everything, it's just it's not rolled up very well. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. But it is an acrylic, it's a 4 weight, and I'm using a size I hook. You can use whatever weight yarn you want. I would suggest a 3 to 5 weight, and whichever hook is recommended for that weight. All right, so we start with a slip knot on our hook as usual, and we chain 4. Okay, after we're done chaining 4, if you saw my basket tutorial, then you'll see this is a very familiar way of creating a circle. So after we've chained 4, you're going to put your crochet hook back in that loop, okay, and you're going to do something to create a circle. You're going to pull up a loop through that first loop and then through the chain that you just made, and that is how you make a circle to start crocheting in the round. There are other ways to make a circle, but this is the easiest way, and it typically is the first way beginners learn how to crochet. So I'm not going to make anything any more difficult than it has to be. Okay, so yeah, you just chain 4 and then join them together by putting your crochet hook in that first chain and pulling up a stitch. Okay, so something that's really cool about these is that you know which row you're on by how many clusters there are on each side. So the first row, we're going to make 1 cluster on each side. All right. So first we chain up 2. For me, when I chain 2, that is going to be the size of a regular double crochet. All right. Some people have found that it's easier for them to chain up 3 to make to reach the height of a double crochet. So just keep in mind that whatever you chain up at the very beginning, that's going to count as your first double crochet. All right. So we chain up 2 or 3, and then we double crochet twice into this loop. Okay. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. So this is your first cluster. Your cluster is going to be made up of 3 double crochets. All right. So now that we've done one side, we're going to make the corner, which is chaining 2. Next, we're going to do the next side by double crocheting 3 more double crochet stitches inside that ring. Okay, so now that the second side is made, we're going to chain 2 again to make that corner, and then we're going to put 3 more double crochet stitches inside the ring. And just in case it's not clear, you're not crocheting these into any of the stitches. You're actually just going into that ring we created and just putting them in the ring, and that's it. Okay, now you're going to chain 2 more for the third corner, and we're going to make the fourth side by double crocheting 3 times. Okay, so now we have made all 4 sides, and all we need to do is make a corner and join it to this first side that we created. You do that by chaining 2 and then slip stitching into this first chain 2 that you created. Some of you guys might have created a chain 3, but how you do that is that you go under the stitch, you pull a loop through that stitch, and then you pull a loop through your second chain and your chain 2, and now you're ready to start the second round. Okay, so we do the second round very similar to the first, only now we have more than one cluster that we're going to be putting in each side. So there's something you've got to do in between those clusters. We're going to chain up 2 again to count as our first double crochet, and then we're going to put 2 more double crochets into that corner space. All right, so we have 3, we have a cluster into that corner space, or 3 double crochets. Now in between the clusters on the sides, we're going to only chain 1. All right, and then you're going to put another cluster in this corner here by double crocheting 3 more in the corner. Okay, and you're going to chain 2 to create that corner, and then you're going to put another cluster of 3 double crochets into this corner again to start the third side. Again, you're going to chain 1 and make your next cluster. I'm going to go ahead and leave you here. Remember, we're going to make our next cluster, chain 2 for the corner, make another cluster in the same chain 2 space from before, and then we're going to chain 1 and make our next cluster into here, and we're going to go around just like we did these 2 sides the same way until we get to this to the very first cluster in this second round. I'll meet you when we're there. Hi, so we have gone all the way around the second round, and I just want to go over what we just did. So when we ended with the first round, we started the second by chaining up 2, then we double crocheted 2 more times into this corner. We chained 1 in between these 2 clusters. We made this double crochet 3 times cluster into this corner. And then we created a new corner by chaining 2, Then we put another cluster there, chain one, put another cluster, made a corner, put a cluster here, chained one, put another cluster, made a corner, and now we have 2 clusters on our last side. So all we have to do is make this corner and join. You make the corner by chaining 2, and then you join by going into this chain and slip stitching into that corner. So now we have 2 rows, and again you've got 1 on each of the first round, and then you've got 2 on each side in the second round. So for the third round, we do the exact same thing. The only difference is that we're going to be making 3 clusters on each side. So we're going to start off by we chain 2, and then we double crochet. I'm sorry. I got turned around a little bit. Okay, so we chain 2, and then we double crochet 2 more times into that same corner. Now we chain 1, and we put another one of these clusters right here in that chain 1 space from the round before by double crocheting 3 times. Since we're still making up the side, we're going to chain 1 more time, and we're going to make the last cluster on this side by double crocheting 3 times into that corner. Now we're going to make our new corner for round 3 by chaining 2. We're going to turn basically and create our first side cluster for this next side into the same corner stitch as we clustered in before, only this is for the new side. So we do that by double crocheting 3, and then because the next one is a side granny square cluster, we're going to just chain 1. We're going to do another 3 double crochets in this chain 1 space here, and then we're going to chain 1 and put another cluster here. Then we're going to make our corner, and we're going to keep on going until we meet up with this side at the very end of round 3. I will meet you there. Hi, welcome back. So I have continued the granny square pattern all the way around, and I'm about to join with that first chain that we did for round 3. So I have already chained 2, and now I'm going to go under this stitch, pull a loop through, and then pull that loop through that second chain, and now we have connected, and we are completed round 3. And again, I know repetition's probably irritating to some of you guys, but it really helps to continue to look at it. The first round we did 1 cluster on each side. The second round we did 2 clusters on each side. And the third round we did 3 clusters for each side. And then we put that turning chain of 2 at each corner. And then we just chained 1 in between each one of these clusters of stitches. And the clusters are 3 double crochets. So now we are going to begin round 4. And in this particular granny square, I'm going to go ahead and stop at round 4. But, and we'll make it up to this size. But I just want to go ahead and say, with granny squares, you can make them as small as just 1 round, or you can make them as big as you want, okay? If you want to continue to keep going around, you'll end up with a square fabric, And you know, it can look very, very stunning, especially if you use mandala yarn or any kind of self-striping yarn, because the colors will start striping themselves, and it can look really, really beautiful that way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to do the 4th round. It's going to be exactly like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, just so you know. And then I will show you how to bind off and how to hide your ends in a granny square, okay? Because it's a little bit different than when you're working with any other stitch pattern, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and chain up 2, and that counts as our first double crochet. And then I'm going to double crochet twice more to make the first cluster of this side in round 4. Just like always, I'm going to chain 1 in between each one of those clusters. Because we're on the 4th round, I'm going to be making 4 clusters per side. Chain 1, make the next cluster, chain 1, and make that 4th cluster. Okay, now I'm going to chain 2 and continue doing the granny square all the way around until I get back to this first cluster that I made. I will see you there. Hi, so I have gone all the way around and I have 1 more double crochet to make before I complete my 4th round. So I'm gonna complete that double crochet, chain 2, and then slip stitch into this last cluster, and I am done. So in order to finish my granny square, I'm going to need to bind off and then find a way to weave in my ends. So first off, I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. And this is already cut pretty short, and I'm going to just show you how I weave in my ends on a granny square. All right. So what I do is I take this and I go underneath one of those clusters, okay, and I pull the end through, and then I go under another one of the clusters and I pull it through again, and then I go through the next one and I pull it through again, and that is not coming out. And go ahead and snip it off very close to the work without snipping my work. And now my ends are hidden. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this one, only I'm going to just pull it around this loop right here. And before, when if you've seen any of my other videos and I've used a crochet hook to try to hide my ends, it's because I've been spending a lot of time working on a granny project, the granny square project, and I had been using the crochet hook to weave in my ends just like this, and I had I had forgotten that that's a lot. These granny square clusters are a lot easier to weave in with using that method than some of the other kinds of stitches. So as you can see, I have now completed 2 granny squares in this particular yarn, and I obviously will need to join them eventually into whatever project that I want to make. Usually I just join them into a blanket, and there are several joining methods that I can teach you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this tutorial with this. I have a couple more granny square projects that I would like to show you, or granny square motifs that are very, very simple, like this one. that I'd like to teach you before I go ahead and teach you some different joining methods. But just know that I will continue to include a lot of content over the next few days, and I will see you soon with another video.